Philosophical Mysticism, Lesson 11, Death and Time. So death. So I claimed that the basic criterion for consciousness is being aware that you are aware of something. That's sort of the criterion that I'm giving. But this, as far as the roots of consciousness go, is much harder to achieve than it seems. For it to work, there must be some significant link between you and the objects in the world, the something. So if you're going to be aware of something, there has to be some link between you and the something, or the world itself. One way to establish this link is through death or awareness of death. But this is not simply awareness of death in itself. Clearly, our ancestors were aware that their kin were dying probably quite often. So it's not just that basic awareness. Rather, it involves facing one's own death. Or as Martin Heidegger would call it, being towards death. Being towards death. Being towards death involves seeing death as one's possibility. Death is the possibility of the impossibility of any existence at all, as Heidegger famously says. What this means is that death is forward-looking, but at the same time imminent. Death looms over us and is always possible at any time. Death is the end of existence, but also the focus of existence. So it's sort of, we are going to put our whole existence into this idea of death. More importantly, I hold that death occurs in the world. And it will entail us no longer being in the world or being a part of the world. So in this way, death is not just a loss of you or for us, but of world. Death and time. So we have this sort of this link established between you and the something. And then we might ask, though, how do we become aware of this link? Again, Heidegger's going to be really helpful here. Heidegger holds that we anticipate death. But in doing so, we see existence as finite and having a definitive end. And this is going to shape the forward-looking aspect of death to be inescapable and belonging to us. In this way, my death is mine. We are aware of death as always possible, something that could happen to us in the future at any given moment, even though death is not here now. In this way, we define ourselves by the future and finitude. So it sort of becomes a part of our whole existence, how we define existence. In analyzing our own anticipation and dread, we become aware that we are aware of something. This is the something. We are aware of something. We're aware that we're aware of something, mainly that we must die and that existence must come to an end. But in doing this and seeing this end, we must define a moment. By being forced to define a moment here, I take it, we can form a conception or idea of time and supplementary add or place in it. And of course, this is over a very long process, over a very long time, as far as coming to this state. Time then attaches itself to our phenomenal experience, eventually being embedded in the frame of consciousness itself. So eventually time actually becomes part of our consciousness, or even the sort of focus or cause of our consciousness. we become aware that we are now aware of something, again, our own death. So we are aware that we are aware of something. Thus, the proposed criterion of consciousness can be satisfied. So we're trying to satisfy this criterion. Here's one way that we could do it. So we've met the criterion with time, and I take time to be the first primitive idea. And I take time to be necessary for all other ideas in consciousness as we know it today. Consciousness as we know it is dependent, I argue, on time. I would also take some other primitive ideas which shape the structure of consciousness to be. So these things have actually shaped the structure of consciousness that we currently have. I would take some of these other primitive ideas. Some examples might be self, God, an infinite self, other, including recognition of other selves, being, permanence, change, impermanence, cause, effect, volition generalized, nothingness, death generalized, necessity, potentiality, quantity with abstraction, quality, distinctness, likeness, difference, proximity, both continuous and non-continuous, order, real or imagined, and relation. So these are going to be some of the primitive ideas that philosophical mysticism is going to accept or hold as primitive in shaping the structure of consciousness. And with these primitive ideas, the conscious can take shape. And we will eventually find ourselves unable to think at all without them. And that's sort of where we are now. We can't even think without having these primitive ideas in place. Without having these pieces in place, we can't even think as we would sort of think about it today. So we've done a lot here. We've actually done much more than was required to demarcate ourselves from animals as conscious beings. So we sort of have this picture here built, and it does the job of explaining how we might demarcate ourselves as conscious beings from animals as non-conscious beings in the sort of significant sense. If you want to learn more, check out the book Philosophical Mysticism, A Spiritual Handbook for Mankind by Nicholas Schroeder. Definitely worth a read.